Hello again, Year 7. Today we are looking at substituting positive numbers into algebraic expressions. This is on page 6 of your booklets. So let's start by filling in our dot points. To evaluate is our first word. To evaluate, which means to work out, an expression or to substitute values means to replace each pronumeral in an expression with a number to obtain a final value. It means what's going to be happening is we're going to be giving you expressions that have letters in them, but we're going to be telling you what those letters are equal to. So for example, in this little example here, I'm going to tell you that x is equal to 3 and y is equal to 8. If my expression is x plus 2y, I can put those values in that expression. So I want to put that x is equal to 3. I want to put that 3 in where the x is. And that the 8, y is equal to 8, I want to put that in where the y is there. So that is then going to become what is written down here at the end. Instead of x, I now have 3 plus. Now, when the 2 and the y are next to each other, remember that it means times. So I don't want to write 2/8. I need to write 2 times 8. Okay, because it would be very confusing if we didn't write it like that. So 2 times 8, and then we can either do it in our head, or some of you might need to use your calculator to work out that that is equal to 19. Okay, let's keep going. A term like 4a means 4 times a. When substituting a number, we must include the multiplication sign, which is what we just did in that last question. So that's a little reminder for us. We must, oops, I've already got the word must, include the multiplication sign. Since two numbers written like 4 and 2 next to each other, we would assume that that's the number 42. And that is very different if that is actually meant to be 4 times 2, if those numbers are meant to be multiplied. Okay, so make sure you put those multiplication signs in. Replace all of the pronumerals with numbers. That's the first thing you always have to do in these problems. And then evaluate using your normal order of operations. So we always start by looking at brackets first, multiplication and division from left to right, and then addition and subtraction from left to right. It's a bit of a reminder from our work at the beginning of the year. Okay, so let's start on some questions. Given that t is equal to 5, okay, that's what I've been told, that's what I'm going to be using. I want to evaluate. Now, evaluate just means I want to find the number answer for t plus 7. So what I want to do is everywhere I see a t, I have to put a 5 in there instead. So this first question, instead of t plus 7, that's going to become 5 plus 7. And then I just want to work out what that's equal to. So obviously there's only one step to do here. 5 plus 7 is equal to 12. Make sure that you always show the substitution line. So this is what we call the substitution line, where you have replaced the t with the value that you want to put in. And then you must always have the final calculation from there. Sometimes there may be different steps in between with calculations using your order of operations, and it might vary from person to person how many steps you show there, but you should at least always have the substitution line and your final answer. Okay, let's go on to the next one. 8t. Remember, we are always putting 5 everywhere we see a t. So that means we want an 8 and we want a 5. but we don't want them straight next to each other, because that would look like 85. When they're next to each other, I have to put that multiplication sign back in so that it is 8 times by 5, which will then equal 8 times 5 is 40. So next, putting a 5 everywhere where there is a t. So it'll be 10 over 5 plus 4, and then I have another t, so I have to put a 5 in again, so minus 5 here. Now, order of operations. Now I don't have any brackets, so this is where we may need a few more steps before we get to our answer. So the first thing I would need to do is the division, this part. Okay, so let's do that. 10 divided by 5 is 2, and we're going to leave the other numbers for the next line. All right, now that we have all addition and subtraction, we can do all of those in one step. So we go 2 plus 4 is 6. 6 take away 5 makes 1 for the final answer. Okay, question 2. Now we want to substitute. We have 2 different letters now. We have x is 4 and y is 7. So everywhere there is an x, we want to put the number 4. Everywhere where there is a y, we want to put the number 7, just to complicate things a little bit more. Okay, so we have some new expressions. 5x. Instead of x, we want to replace that with a 4, but we need to put a times in. So 5 times 4. Then we have a plus sign in our expression, and it's plus y. But everywhere there's a y, we have to put a 7. Then our expression has a plus 8. And we've done our substitution. Now we want to do our calculating. So given what we're given there, we want to do the multiplication first. This part, 5 times 4. So 5 times 4 is 20. Put the other numbers, or write the other numbers down. And then they're all additions now, so we can add those together. So we go 20 plus 7 plus the 8. Okay, so we get 35. All right, next one. By the way, it is okay for you to have your calculators in this test to help make sure that you're doing these calculations correctly. But that's why I said before, you must show me the substitution line, and you must show me some working out to get to your final answer. Get your final answer as well. So part B, we want 80 minus, then we have a bracket, 2x, but we want to replace the x with a 4. So 2 has to be times by 4. So that's the 2x part. Then I have a plus y, but y we want to replace with the 7. Close the bracket. All right, now we have some brackets here, so we have to do those first. Inside those brackets, we have a multiplication and we have an addition. We do multiplication first. So write the 80 down, write the minus down. 2 times 4 is 8 plus 7. All right. Now I still have brackets, so let's work out the brackets now. 80 minus 8 plus 7 is 15. Okay, and then we can finally do our last step, which is the subtraction, where we go 80 minus 15, and we get 65. Some of you may do that in less steps, but please show me some of your working out. Question 3. If P is equal to 4 and T is equal to 5. Okay, so we have 2 different letters again that we're going to be replacing in our expressions. Find the value of 3p squared. Okay, we haven't had anything like that yet. So the same process applies. First of all, we want to substitute into that expression. So we have a 3, then we have a P, so we want a multiplication sign, and P is 4, so let's replace that, and then we have a little squared sign. Now, squared means to times by itself. So 4 squared is the same as 4 times 4, which is 16, which you would then multiply by 3. But this is probably also a good time to show you the squared button on your calculator. So the squared button, if you can see my little cursor moving around on the screen, here it is over here. Okay, right here, an X with a little 2 above it. Okay, so to type that in, I go 3 times 4, press that button, and it brings up the squared. And then it will do all the hard work for you. So that's equal to 48. Okay, next one. T squared plus P cubed. So let's do our substitution. T is equal to 5. So we put 5 first, and that is squared. So that's T squared is 5 squared. Then we have a plus sign. P, which is 4, cubed. All right, we have buttons to help us do cubes as well. So cubes, by the way, means 4 multiplied together 3 times. That's 4 times 4 times 4. So those numbers get quite big quite fast. To type it in your calculator, you press 5 and you have the squared button. We knew that button from the last question. Plus, then we press the 4. To get a cube button, there's not a button. Oh, there is, right there. Underneath where the alpha button, straight down, there is the cube button. There is also this button over here that would do any other power that you want. So there's a squared button and a cube button, but this one would do any power at all if you had another one as well. Okay, so press equals, and that is equal to 89. Okay, and lucky last, we want the square root. That big thing over the top there is called a square root of P squared plus 3 squared. So let's write down the square root sign. Then the P, we want to replace that with 4, remember, from our original question. So 4 squared for P squared plus, well, that's already a number, so plus 3 squared. And all of that can be typed into the calculator. So the square root button is underneath our cube button, that one there. And then we press 4, we can press the squared button, plus 3. Press the squared button again. Looks exactly like what I've written down. And I press equals, and that's equal to 5. All right. So you have got the next couple of pages. So exercise 2 is your work for this lesson. It is a few pages. Please try to get as much done as you can, and remember to ask for help if you need it.